Facebook announced on Tuesday it is shutting down its facial recognition system, which automatically identifies users in photos and videos. The company cited growing societal concerns about the use of such technology. In a blog post, Facebook's vice president of artificial intelligence wrote that while the technology had many beneficial uses, quote, its long-term role in society needs to be debated in the open. The removal of facial recognition by the world's largest social media platform comes as the tech industry has faced a reckoning over the past few years over the ethics of using the technology. Critics say facial recognition, which is popular among retailers, hospitals, and other businesses for security purposes, could compromise privacy, target marginalized groups, and normalize intrusive surveillance. The news also comes as Facebook has been under intense scrutiny by regulators and lawmakers over user safety and a wide range of abuses on its platform. The company, which last week renamed itself Meta, said more than 1/3 of Facebook's daily active users have opted into the face recognition setting on the social media site, and the change will now delete the facial recognition templates of more than 1 billion people. A Facebook spokesperson said the removal will roll out globally and is expected to be complete by December.
I can't think of any 2 days when more has been accomplished dealing with climate than these 2 days.
U.S. President Joe Biden closed out his trip to the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland on Tuesday, commending pledges by world leaders to halt deforestation and cut methane emissions, and touting America's return to the world stage in fighting climate change.
We showed up. We showed up. And by showing up, we've had a profound impact on the way I think the rest of the world is looking at the United States and its leadership role.
More than 100 countries joined a U.S. and EU-led effort to cut methane emissions 30% by 2030, with Biden unveiling a sweeping domestic plan that for the first time will require oil and gas companies to aggressively detect and repair methane leaks and upgrade equipment like storage tanks and compressors.
When I think of climate crisis, I think of jobs.
Biden also used the opportunity to tout his Build Back Better plan to invest in clean energy, saying he believes moderate Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, a key swing vote who's pushed back against Biden's legislation, will ultimately support his $1.75 trillion spending bill.
I believe that Joe will be there.
Speaking of being there, two countries who weren't at the crucial climate summit, China, which emits the most carbon dioxide of any country in the world, and Russia, a major oil producer, both of whom were called out by Biden.
The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing? And they've lost an ability to influence people around the world and all the people here at COP. The same way I would argue with regard to Russia.
Separately, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos called on the private sector to up its game in combating climate change.
Companies need to take leadership positions.
The man heavily funding space exploration also showing his support for Mother Earth.
I'm pleased to announce a $2 billion pledge allocated directly to restoring nature and transforming food systems.
Bezos added that Amazon aims to power all of its operations with renewable energy by 2025.
Gunmen abducted 4 members of staff and their children from the University of Abuja on Tuesday, the university has said. It is a rare kidnapping, taking place at such a large institution and in the Nigerian capital.
But my child is there in the bush.
Lecturer Basi Ubom says he escaped the violence, but that his daughter was taken.
3 of the boys were in front of my house shooting more than 20 rounds at the same time. I don't even know what is it, AK, what I call AK-47, those in the military. And there was no response.
Gangs of armed men, known locally as bandits, have launched a series of abductions from schools and attacks on villages since late last year. They are mostly in the northwest of the country, in exchange for ransom. While there have been kidnappings of individuals on the outskirts of Abuja, attacks on universities are rare. Abdul Rashid Nala, Vice-Chancellor at the University of Abuja, said security forces were immediately deployed and that a pursuit of the attackers was underway.
The truth is that this is one of the most devastating, incidences. It's becoming like a daily affair in this nation, and it's very sad that this great university is being attacked this way. It's very sad.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's security forces remain stretched on several fronts, including by the growing lawlessness in the north and northwest and a 12-year Islamist insurgency in the northeast that has killed thousands.
You as jurors will end up looking at it from the standpoint of a 17-year-old under the circumstances as they existed on August 25th of 2020. And Mr. Binger makes a big thing out of Kyle Rittenhouse was the only person who shot somebody that evening. True. Mr. Rittenhouse was the only person who was chased by Joseph Rosenbaum that evening. He turned himself into law enforcement. He said from that day what he did. He's made no bones about that. He acted in self-defense, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence will show that his actions on August 25th of 2020 were reasonable under the circumstances as they existed that night being attacked by Mr. Rosenbaum. The evidence will show, and the law is clear, he didn't endanger those other individuals. The government can refer to him all they wish as an active shooter. The only person he had shot was Joseph Rosenbaum, who had made threats to kill, had made numerous statements about ripping people's hearts out. He wasn't afraid to go back to jail. The evidence will show he thought, probably, that he could get that gun from Kyle Rittenhouse. He was wrong. Kyle Rittenhouse protected himself, protected his firearm so it couldn't be taken, used against him or other people from Mr. Rosenbaum who'd made threats to kill. And the other individuals who didn't see that shooting attacked him in the street like an animal. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what the evidence will show. Thank you.
Mr. President, you're touting on this visit your $1.75 trillion plan that includes climate, but your party is still not united behind it. Senator Joe Manchin yesterday called it budget gimmicks, shell games, and a recipe for economic crisis. Today he said he never signed off on the framework. So do you have a specific commitment from Senator Manchin to support your Build Back Better bill, yes or no? And how do you respond to those criticisms? And I have a quick follow-up.
Number one, I'm not going to talk about the specifics of my conversations. He will vote for this if we have in this proposal what he has anticipated, and that is looking at the fine print and the detail of what comes out of the House in terms of the actual legislative initiatives. I believe that Joe will be there. With regard to the issue of whether or not he thinks that he's worried about this being inflationary or going to be negative impact in the economy, I think that I've made it clear to Joe, and will continue to, and we will, that as I've apologized for repeating, Peter, but 17 Nobel laureates on economics said it's going to lower inflation, raise wages, increase competition, create 2 million jobs a year, et cetera. And so I think that I understand that Joe is looking for the precise detail to make sure nothing got slipped in terms of the way in which the legislation got written that is different than he acknowledged he would agree to. But I think we'll get this done.